In this lesson, we're going to look at multiplying polynomials using the distributive property. And so the distributive property says that you take each term in one bracket and you multiply or you distribute it over each term in a second bracket. So to start off, we're going to take this term A and we're going to distribute it over both terms in the other bracket. So A times C will be AC and A times D will be AD. We then distribute the B over each term. So B times C will be BC and B times D will be BD. Now let's take and extend that into a few examples. So we're going to take, in this first example, we're going to take 2x and we're going to distribute it over both terms. So 2x times x is going to be a 2x squared. 2x times 4 is going to be an 8x. Then we're going to take and distribute the 3 over. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now we always look and see if there are like terms. I can see that I have 2x terms, and so I can combine those. So my final answer is 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. Let's look at another example. We have these two binomials being multiplied together. So I'm going to take the 4x and I'm going to distribute it first over the terms of the second bracket. So 4 times 3 is 12, and x times x squared is x to the power of 3 because we add exponents when we are multiplying terms that have exponents with them. And then 4x times this positive 4 is a plus 16x. Moving on to the 3 now, we're going to distribute 3 over each of these. So 3 times 3 is 9, and then there's no term of x to multiply with x squared, so that stays as x squared. And then 3 times 4 is 12. Looking and scanning for like terms, I do not have any terms that are alike, so I can't combine them. The only thing I can do is I can write the terms in order of descending powers on the exponents. And this is just a convention that's used so that we can examine these polynomials in greater depths in future math courses. Now distributing the 5x minus 2 over these three terms, I'm going to take the 5x and I'm going to distribute over all three terms. So 5 times 3 is 15. And then x times x to the power of 2 is x to the power of 3. 5x times 4x is 20x to the power of 2. And then 5x times a negative 2 is a negative 10x. Now I'm going to move on to the negative 2. And I'm going to distribute it over these three terms. So negative 2 times a positive 3 is a negative 6, and then x squared. Negative 2 times a positive 4 is a negative 8x. And then finally, negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. I'm now going to scan to see if I have any like terms. And I do have a few pairs. I have some x squared terms, and I have some terms of x. So combining these like terms, there is nothing to combine with the x to the power of 3. 20x squared take away 6x squared is 14 of those x squareds. Negative 10x minus 8x is a negative 18x. And then finally, the 4 has nothing to combine with. Looking at another example, we're going to distribute the 2x minus 3. So I'm going to distribute the 2x first. So 2 times 4 is 8. X times x to the power of 2 is x to the power of 3. 2x times 6x is a 12x to the power of 2. And 2x times 9 is going to be 18x. Now moving on to the negative 3, we're going to distribute it over these three terms. So negative 3 times a positive 4 is a negative 12 x to the power of 2. Negative 3 times 6 is a negative 18, and then there's an x term with it. And finally, negative 3 times positive 9 is a minus 27. Looking at my like terms, I have x squared terms, and they are going to add to 0. And then I have some x terms that are also going to add to 0. And so my final answer is 8x to the power of 3 subtract 27. One more example to look at in this video. We're going to multiply 3 terms with 3 terms. So I'm going to start off the same way by taking the first term, and I'm going to distribute it over each term in the other bracket. So there's a hidden 1 here. So that 1 multiplied by the 3 is going to be a 3. X to the power of 2 times x to the power of 2 is x to the power of 4. Moving on, the 1 multiplied by the 2 is going to be a 2. And then looking at the exponents on x, I've got a 2 and a 1, so I'm going to add those together to be a 3. And then finally, I'm going to have a minus 8x squared. Now I'm going to move on to the minus x, and I'm going to distribute the minus x over each of these terms. So a negative times a positive is negative, and then an x times an x to the power of 2 is x to the power of 3. A negative x times a positive 2x is a minus 2x to the power of 2. And the last term here is negative x times a negative 8. Well, the negative times a negative is a positive, and then 8 times x is just 8x. And moving on, we've got one more term to distribute. We've got this last plus 2. We're going to distribute it over each of these 3 terms. So 2 times 3 is going to be 6, and then there's an x squared with it. 2 times 2x is 4x, and then finally 2 times a negative 8 is a minus 16. Now we're going to look for like terms. There are no other x to the 4 terms. I do see that I have some x to the power of 3 terms. I'm now looking and I see some x to the power of 2 terms. And then finally, I can see that I have some x terms that can be combined as well. So now I'm just going to combine their coefficients. So 3x to the power of 4. Looking at the x to the power of 3 terms, I have 2 of them, subtract 1 of them, right? There's a hidden 1 there. So that means that there will just be 1 of them left. Moving on to the x to the power of 2, I have a negative 8, subtract 2 is a negative 10. Negative 10 plus 6 is a minus 4. So we have minus 4x to the power of 2. Moving on now to the x terms. I have an 8x and a 4x. That will be a plus 12x. And then finally, the constant of 16 has nothing. So it's a negative 16 to end.